Welcome, everyone, to a different kind of podcast for Smark City. I'm Drew, who you usually see with a dick on his head, and I'm here with Arizona's own and Smark City permanent resident, Chris Marshall.
What up, Drew?
Hey, so we are here to not talk about Raw, not talk about SmackDown, or any WWE stuff.
That's unheard of.
Nah, we don't care about any of that stuff. Today, we're here to talk about Arizona Wrestling Federation's Summer Explosion show, which happened last night. And you were there.
I was. It was an absolute blast. I went to their show last month, and I fell in love with wrestling all over again because you're just feet away from the wrestlers. And every person I got to speak to, either during the intermission or afterwards, were just genuinely like amazingly good people, regardless of how they behaved in the ring. So all the action was fantastic. Getting to know the guys even a little bit was even better. Um, and it's just such a unique experience being that close to the action and being able to interact with the actor slash real person at the same time.
Yeah, for me personally, I've never actually been to an indie show, but I have been looking into getting into some around my area, and I think you would probably recommend other people to do that. No?
Oh, definitely. Ever since Phil Stamper hit us up about his independent wrestling dates list, uh, we've been pushing those dates to get people to go out and see local shows because it really changes your experience with wrestling and how you relate to the wrestlers. But there's a world of talent out there that might not be on TV ever, or if they do get there, it's going to be a while, but they still deserve your attention and your support all the same. And it's just a better experience when you get to see it live.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I probably won't be able to go to SummerSlam, which is coming up for WWE, and that's only about 20 minutes away from my home. And I would have loved to go, but funds not that great right now for many
Right?
people.
Like
But
I went to one SmackDown show, and that was a blast. I got some of my signs on television, but it didn't compare to being as close as I was to the actual wrestlers and the action in the ring. I got to high five almost every single wrestler. I got fantastic pictures of almost all of it, and even some really good video. Um, it's just such a better experience seeing a show live than on television. And when it's these smaller shows, you get more interaction, and it's an even better feeling.
hmm,
So, but before I blabber on too much, the first match was Keepers of the Faith against, I want to say it was the Business Boys or the Busy Boys. I couldn't quite make it out. Um, but those two dudes had a linebacker gimmick and a boxer gimmick going up against the Keepers of the Faith, who were like two bad biker dudes with chains around their neck. One dude just barks, and it's like it's a genuine dog bark, and you're like, oh my god, this dude's massive. Please don't bark at me. So, as the Keepers of the Faith are getting into the ring, there's this little kid who's walking by, going back to his seat, has no idea what's going on, and this big dude, his name's Gallo, just like got real close to the kid's head and barked at him, and that kid just hightailed it back to his seat. When he realized he was safe, he just started laughing his ass off. Um, you know how you have the ring attendants who like take your gear to the back where the wrestlers are and all that stuff.
yeah.
Uh, One of the guys accidentally knocked one of their chains off the ring post, and so the dude just started barking like a madman at that guy. And the dude was genuinely scared, so he's like running backwards, holding onto their vests. So the guy grabs his chain, barks a lot, and then smacks the chain super hard, fairly close to that guy's feet. But the dude's a pro; he knows exactly how much length he has and the distance. But just that whole messing with everybody in the crowd sets that legit vibe, like these are some bad dudes. and they got in the ring, and they were some bad dudes.
Yeah,
Um,
that's the thing about independent shows and even WWE live events is that it kind of takes you out of that. I don't know if professional, not professional, but uh, it's not like all bullet pointed and structured. You can kind of the wrestlers get to have a little bit of fun.
yeah, they still get to improvise and work with the crowd. Um, but yeah, that was a fantastic match. I want to say the Business Boys won. I was just so wrapped up in that dude barking at everybody and just how hard they were hitting the other guys. Um, just made a fan out of me right away.
That's
So
great.
then, yeah, it's usually hard to do that because like I need an in to a wrestler to be able to relate to them. Nothing about these two was relatable to me as a person, outside of the fact that they were just wildly entertaining.
That's all. Entertainment is pretty much aside from wrestling. It's pretty much a top thing to get people drawn in. So I mean that's how I started watching WWE. It just different types of wrestlers having that entertainment factor. It draws you in, and that's how you become a fan.
Yeah, and those guys were entertaining. Uh, the next match was Mystique versus Heather Monroe. Heather Monroe I had heard of before, and I was super surprised that there was going to be a women's match on this. So I didn't get as many pictures as I wanted. But Heather knows what she's doing. She controlled the whole match. She sold everything, and she pretty much carried Mystique to Mystique's win, um, which is a bummer because when someone is that good and so many people don't notice it, like it kind of hurts worse as a fan when that person loses. But
Hmm.
Mystique was from Glendale, Arizona, where the event was. She was the face in the situation. So it is what it is.
Yeah. Um,
Um,
so
but
yeah, but
got a good couple of pictures of those two working together. Sent them to Heather.
oh, that's cool.
You were going to say?
Um, so yeah, so I wanted to ask you what is so this is about what, like 30, 35 minutes into the show already?
Um, yeah, about there.
So what is
Because
explain?
it's about 10 minutes a match, and then they'll have about 3 to 5 minutes between matches for cleanup and whatnot, if needed. And the show always starts a few minutes late just for stragglers and getting that first announcement going and all that stuff. But
Right.
at this point, we're about a half hour in.
Okay, so for people who have not been to shows, live events or indie shows, what is the atmosphere like?
Well, it would depend on the place, but this crowd was hot uh, from the get go. Crap, actually, there's a match that got left off of this card. It was LT and Chris Evans. LT is this big dude here out of Phoenix. Looks like a brick shithouse. And Chris Evans is this really slick, dynamic wrestler. They had a fantastic match that got everybody going. That was actually the first match, and I feel dumb forgetting about it because it was so great. Um, God, they got the crowd going with this babyface on babyface action, even though LT looks like a dude you want to boo. And even though Chris Evans was beating the guy you want to cheer, so you want to boo him, but he was so fantastic you couldn't. Uh, Ended with a pile driver from LT to Chris Evans. Evans sold the injury. LT did the sportsman thing, checked on him, gave him a hug, uh, and went on with their business. But that match got everybody going. Keepers of the Faith just kept it going, and so once the vibe was there for all the fans, it was impossible to mess it up. It's such a closed, tight space that when all the fans are on the same wavelength, everything's going to go right.
Yeah, that's the really cool thing about being with a bunch of wrestling fans watching something or going to a show together is you get for lack of a better term hyped. I don't want to
And
steal Mojo Rawley's gimmick there, but you just get really pumped up and ready to see what's going on in the ring, and if you're at a good show, then it just like this one seems to have been. It just carries on throughout the entire thing.
yeah, like this was 150 to 200 people who were packed in there, and everyone was like just on the same vibe, even if they weren't cheering for the same guy. And it seems like an easier thing for fans to tune into each other in smaller venues than like at a WWE event that sold out. Um, because that crowd just loved everything at the same time, the same way when those things happened. Uh,
Yeah, I do. I would imagine like when you go to an Evolve show, like Evolve does a lot of shows around here, and they do in much smaller venues, of course. And I feel like that smaller, more intimate type of an atmosphere is an even cooler experience than going to a sold out WWE show.
oh, for sure. And it's a lot easier in these smaller venues for wrestlers and fans to be on the same page because there's less people that the wrestlers or fans have to fight to bring into that safe space. Um, so the
Tell us
next
about the
match
yeah. Tell us about the next match.
was the AWF Tag Team Championship. It was the Southwest Dream Machine, who are just friggin' awesome, against Super Nick Tendo, which is the wrestler's Super Chaos, and a guy by the name of Nick Tendo. Nick Tendo has one of the most infectious smiles you've ever seen. Uh, you can't help but smile too. Um, Pure baby face. He couldn't be a bad guy for the next 10 years if he tried. Like, you can't help but smile that frequently. Um,
But not
he's
the bad Apollo Crews type smiling.
No, not the cheesy. Hey, I'm always smiling. But
Yeah.
like when this dude smiles, lights up the room kind of smile. Like it's a pure, innocent. I'm thrilled to be here. I had a chance to speak with him after the show was over, and he wrestles out of Albuquerque, New Mexico, and here. And apparently, there's nothing in New Mexico outside that one show. So he's thrilled just to have the opportunity to come to Glendale, Arizona, and wrestle for a couple hundred fans. And he genuinely loves every second of it.
That's great. This is making me want to go to an indie show even more. Actually,
Dude, you should. Now, the Southwest Dream Machine are Awesome Andy and Danny G. These are just two bad-looking dudes. They're appropriately named. They deserve to have the championship on them. I saw them last month, and this is 2 months in a row where they just had a fantastic match. My only complaint is that Danny G opened up my gallon of water that I brought to the show to get Suede to sign.
huh.
But, I mean, the dude sat in my seat, opened my water, dumped it on his head to cool down after he just did a suicide dive over the top rope onto the opposition and his tag partner. So I can let it slide.
That's a lesson learned. Always bring an extra bottle of water.
Well, see, I had water to drink that I bought from the show, but you're not allowed to bring outside food or beverages or whatnot. So I asked permission to bring in the gallon to get it signed by Suede. But
Oh,
of
okay.
course, being front row by the post where all these spots happen, inevitably someone was going to do something to that water.
Well,
Um,
that's hey, that in a way makes you feel even more of a part of the show.
oh yeah, the dude used my seat, used my water as a prop, and then I still got it signed by Suede. Uh,
Win-win.
oh, all around. The next match was the 6-man number one contenders match, and it was for the AWF State Championship. This had Jacob Austin Young, Daniel Sanchez, Vega, who I'll get back to later, Owen Travers, Sway Thompson, and Douglas James. Now, Douglas James was new to me. He put on a hell of a show. He just happened to be in a match where everyone was awesome. So I didn't have too many opportunities to get pictures of what he was doing. There were a number of times I had to get out of the way of spots. So I'm kind of bummed I missed some of his moves, but he was fantastic. He's one of the first dudes I found online after the show. Put up tons of pictures from this match on my Twitter, which is Zentrified with a PH in the middle, and plenty of video footage. But that match was absolutely fantastic. Like, everybody was out of their seats cheering by the end of it.
I believe that maybe Swade Thompson and Douglas James you've been having some interaction with on Twitter, right?
Yeah, I had the chance to talk to Swade after the show as well. And his interaction with Jay, like, I got so many pictures of that. I was like, dude, just a warning, I'm gonna blow up your timeline with this stuff. But Swade was chasing Jay around with a Bieber mask, and everyone chants Bieber at Jay. And so it was just a bunch of fun comedy stuff while a bunch of spots and awesome stuff was going down later. So it built from a fun, kind of lighthearted thing into, oh my God, I can't believe all of that just happened. And
that's when comedy is done right.
Right, like, it's supposed to build to something else. It's not, shouldn't really be comedy for comedy's sake, unless it's to kill 5 minutes.
Right.
But yeah, that match was great. I was actually thrilled to see Douglas James, thanking me for being there and all that stuff, which is silly to me. I'm a wrestling fan. Of course, I'm going to go see a wrestling show. So I'm thankful these guys come through Glendale, Arizona, of all places, to put on a show.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. You hear like guys like with the Cruiserweight Classic going on right now. You hear their stories like T.J. Perkins, Xavier Jr., everybody talking about what it's like to be working in the independent scene, and just the smaller crowds that you have to work with, but it's just so much fun for them to interact with the fans and get involved with the fans, and it's a really fun experience for them as well.
I agree. Like, to some extent, I feel bad for some of the guys who were NXT projects who didn't really get to experience life on the independent circuit before becoming what they became, because there's something really special about learning how to work with a crowd that you are always unfamiliar with.
So that was a 6-man match. What was the match that took place after?
Okay, after that was a casket match. Now, it's an independent show. No way they're going to get a casket this big, because R3 is a massive dude. He's like 6'2", 300 pounds. And then the other two dudes were like 250 combined. He was wrestling 2-on-1 against Aiden Colt and Spray Boy Roy. Spray Boy Roy's whole gimmick is spraying water on Aiden Colt, basically. But he actually does know how to wrestle. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been in this situation. I got some fantastic pictures from this because the casket was just a bunch of, it looked like plywood built together in a big enough box for either R3 or the two others to fit in safely. But it was directly in front of me, and whenever they'd open the lid, my whole section would either split off to the left or to the right to see what was happening in the match. Except for this one old dude who was just like chill with it. He's like, whatever, I'll find out who wins when they close the lid. But yeah, I got some fantastic pictures from that. 3 of the best ones were actually of Aiden Colt, who lost. But that crowd loves R3 something vicious.
I I was going to say there some of the pictures because I saw most of the pictures. I think on your Twitter account, it looked like you were some picture. It looked like you were literally like standing right next to the thing. So you were actually
Oh, I was. It was right in front of me because I was front row, right next to that white post and all the pictures.
right.
And so that box was close enough where I could probably just lean over and touch it without having to leave my seat. There's a couple spots where they turned it sideways because the action was happening off to that one corner by the concessions table, and so it was they didn't have an angle to throw R3 in to the box because they only had like 2 feet of space to do it. So they had the refs move the box sideways, and at that point, it was basically hitting my knees, and I had to move again. But that's how close and tight that whole scene was. Um, so R3 wound up power bombing Aiden Colt through the lid. One of the pieces of the lid landed on my foot, which was awesome. Uh, I stood up and took a picture into the casket of Aiden Colt at the exact same time someone else's flash went off. So I have this beautiful, like, bluish picture of Aiden Colt just dead with Spray Boy Roy like, oh my God, he's dead. What do I do now?
Like a silhouette of him is going up to heaven.
Kind of, yeah. So R3 then took care of Spray Boy Roy, but then the rest were like, got to be able to close the lid. There's no lid. So R3 had a makeshift lid already saved under the ring that he sealed the top of it with. The fun part was the refs actually were pushing the casket with the 2 wrestlers out of the line of sight of the fans. But we're talking about 250 pounds of guy in a box. The box probably weighs another 50, 75 pounds and on a concrete floor. So it took me to help the refs to turn the thing so they could actually get behind it. And it took another 7 dudes to help the 2 refs push the box back to where the wrestlers were.
Wow,
And then,
that was. It
yeah,
seemed
it was
like
a
it
heavy
wasn't
box.
that heavy.
That's what it looks like. But just the way, I guess, the weight was in the box because they were just stuck in the one corner. They weren't evenly distributed in the box.
Yeah.
So all the weight was at the front, and they're pushing from behind. So it took a number of them to get it going. But then after the show, R3 was taking pictures next to the casket. So that was cool.
Oh, that's great.
And then the final match was for the AWF Heavyweight Championship. It was Alveric Reiner. I know you could not say that first name and you tried.
No, I could not.
Yeah, and I can't track him down on Twitter. He's one of the few dudes I can't find. But he went up against my boy, Big Duke. I had a chance to talk to him during intermission, well before their match. And I was like, when I get home tonight, I'm buying this one shirt off Pro Wrestling Tees. And after you win the championship, I'm going to buy the shirt that you brought with you, basically. I turned around and I went to sit down and I was like, oh my God, that was a mistake. Not saying it, but like not buying the t-shirt. So I turned around, went back. I was like, I immediately changed my mind. Let me get a shirt. So he hooked me up, went and sat down, went about my business. So then this match happens. In a callback to last month when Alveric Reiner won his match against Daniel Sanchez. Big Duke had already won his #1 contendership for that title, and he attacked Alveric from behind last month. So I didn't get any pictures of Big Duke coming out last night because immediately Alveric Reiner attacked him from behind.
Yeah.
So the beatdown in the ring ensues. Suede comes out to support his bearded friend forever because they're tag partners. And it was at that point I was happy I bought the shirt because I just had that feeling Big Duke wasn't going to win. It was, yeah.
Which he didn't win.
He didn't win, and the way we got there makes a lot of sense, but I hate it. Big Duke got his comeback, and he started murdering Alveric. all of a sudden, two dudes come out of nowhere, beat down Suede, jump in the ring, beat down Big Duke. Suede recovers, goes to get back in the ring to help out Big Duke, and then Suede just gets murdered by these other two dudes. And it turns out those guys are working with Alberic. So then it's three guys basically beating down two dudes. And then the Southwest Dream Team from earlier come out and make the save and run off Alberic and whoever these two people are who I absolutely hate because they prevented Big Duke from winning the championship like he should have.
And
But
we
that's just
like
me
Big
being a
Duke
fan.
at Smark City.
I love me some Big Duke. I'm being a fan and kind of being pissy about how it ended, but as a Smark, it makes sense. I can appreciate it that way, but I hate it.
Also, I do have to say, when you reviewed the show that you went to last month, which unfortunately we don't have anymore because I was on our old site, that I'm mad about. Unless you saved it somewhere, I don't know.
I mean, I could pay for the 1 month and then just copy and repaste it onto our site, but that seems a bit much.
Yeah, but it's okay. When you reviewed the show last month, I saw the exact shirt that you were talking about. I'm imagining you bought the white shirt with the American flag.
That's the one I'm getting off of Pro Wrestling Tees because that is just a badass shirt.
I love that thing. I saw that. I was like, wow, that's a shirt that I would want to buy.
And it looks like kind of a torn / bleeding American flag with Big Duke's name over it, but it's just a beautiful visual. But no, the shirt I got, I actually tweeted. It's an all red shirt and it says "All Hail Duke." And since it's my first wrestling shirt, I got him to sign it after the show.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, but as a fan of Big Duke, and given the situation, like one of the best moments of the match was one fan started saying "All Hail Duke" to the rhythm of the chorus of Seven Nation Army. So it was "All Hail Duke," like over and over again. And about half the crowd got in on it. And whenever the Duke hit, like you felt the vibration in the air because everyone was hitting the same note. It was really cool.
Yeah, you have a lot of pictures on your Twitter account that everyone should go check out. It's at Zentrified, Zentriphied.
And I'll put some effort into retweeting them on the Smark City Twitter handle, as well as getting a full review up, which might not be necessary at this point between all the pictures in this. But it was just a damn fun show. If you have an indie show anywhere near you, do yourself a favor, go see it. Find out why live wrestling is the best.
Yes, go to our post that we do every week. Thanks to Phil Stamper, we put a whole bunch of independent wrestling shows. You can go to their website, buy a ticket, have some fun. So, was there anything else on the show, or was that pretty much it?
That was the whole thing. I'll be back there in, I want to say it's 2 weeks, and then the show a month from now. AWF has me hooked.
That's great. That's exactly what any wrestling fan should do, myself included. I'm absolutely going to. As a matter of fact, I was looking into a promotion that will be having a show in, I think, a few weeks in Long Island. So I'm going to try and see if I can get to that, and maybe I can have some pictures and have a nice story as well.
And some sweaty high fives.
So that's it for this interesting new podcast that we've never done before. Certainly not me. So you can follow us at The Smark City on Twitter, Facebook.com/The Smark City, and follow Zentrified at Zentrified, and we'll follow Chris Marshall at Zentrified. I'm still not. I'm not used to calling you by your name, man. It's weird.
I'm not used to hearing it. Like I'm fine with the Zets. So It is what it is. But later, Tweers.
Later.